Hello and welcome everyone to the first Empowered track of the day. We are very fortunate to be joined by Udi and Devin on the Gong team. These guys are awesome. They are both professional speakers. I've watched recordings of both of them giving incredible presentations all over the world, actually. So we're very lucky to have them here today. And I know that we had a few questions already coming in the first session for the Gong team, but I'm going to kick it off here and just ask a couple questions. And we want to leave a lot of time at the end for folks to grab the mic and come up on stage and talk with Devin and Udi because they are doing some really incredible things over at Gong. I'll be honest, guys, I had no idea what Gong did for a long time, but I knew the name of the company and I knew lots of people that worked there. And at some point, a couple years ago, I was like, well, shoot, I got to go figure out what these people do because I'm seeing my network post about them all the time, right? So how did each of you, just as a first question here, how did each of you get started with being active on LinkedIn?
My esteemed colleague.
I'd say we're probably going to play like a unmute chicken. Who's going to go first here? Sure. I mean, when I started posting on LinkedIn, it was probably, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's back when I was a sales rep. And I would usually post one of two things. Anyone in sales knows there's pain and gain, and a lot of it in sales. And so that's usually what I posted about. So the gain was more of like, hey, here's what I learned today. Maybe it was after a negotiation call. Maybe it was after a week of prospecting. And I would kind of just reflect and think, here's what I noticed and here's what I found. And I would just kind of throw it out into LinkedIn and see what other people thought. The pain was usually where my humor comes into play, which is I had a little fun with it. Like anyone else talking to grumpy CFOs this week or just me every day? Things like that. And 4 or 5 years ago, there wasn't the sales thought leader sphere that there is now, where there's content creators and this and that and all these great things. It was really mostly a promotional outlet for companies. People posting about webinars if they were hiring. And so I found some early traction, surprisingly, because again, I had no goals or really, intent other than kind of sharing, that people really resonated with it. And I found early that a very approachable conversational tone really resonated with, the salespeople that I was connected with.
That's awesome, Devin. What about you, Udi? What got you started on LinkedIn?
So I've probably been on LinkedIn 20 years or as long as it's been around. I'm originally from Tel Aviv, Israel. And in Israel, I think people treated LinkedIn as a place where you go when you're between jobs or when you're getting ready to move on to your next job. So you go in and scramble a quick update of your resume to make sure recruiters can see it. And at some point you figure that all future employers are going to be checking out your LinkedIn profile, so better keep it clean and up to date. And I think Gong is really the first place where I arrived, and I saw that our entire market, which is sales leaders and sales professionals, they live on LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know a salesperson, and for the last 5 years, I'm one of them, that doesn't have a tab open with LinkedIn all day long, every day of the year, because that's where they're looking for their next customer, they're looking for their next partner, they're hiring, they're being hired themselves, and they're educating themselves with their feed, which, of course, in the last few years has become a lot more useful, as Devin said, when it stopped being just about companies promoting their webinars, but actually people sharing valuable content and context and having meaningful conversations. So we still get some of the spam and the other stuff that we got on every other platform, including our email, but it's now worth paying that price because of all the value that we're getting around it. So it was pretty early on in my Gong days, which is coming up to 5 years now, that I realized that LinkedIn is where our audience lives. And if that's where they live, that's where we need to be as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is unique, though, because I know you all are both in the marketing division at Gong. And a lot of times when I talk with marketing leaders, they're very focused on creating the voice of the company and being a representative of the brand on LinkedIn or any social platform. So how do you balance, the voice of the brand, the voice of the company, creating content for the company versus, both of you are very active on LinkedIn and sharing your own personal voice. And I frequently hear at the end of the day, being on LinkedIn or writing copy all day, the last thing I want to do is post my own thing on LinkedIn. How do you find the time and space to do that for others who are looking to, find a good balance between the two?
Happy to give my take, and then would love for Devin to get in some of the tactics that he and his team uses. But I think when we live in a social platform like LinkedIn, you want to be a good citizen. At least I do. And if I go there every day and I am educating myself and meeting people and learning from them, I feel an obligation to share some of that back. And I know sort of there's the law of social networks where about 90% just show up and don't do anything. And then there's about 9% that comment or react to others' posts. And then there's about 1% that actually create content. I don't know if LinkedIn has updated numbers that are different. But I try and be at least part of that 1% as often as I can and create content. So I don't post every day, but I probably post at least a couple of times a week because I think that's my very small way of contributing back. And I'm encouraged by people reacting to the content that I post. It could be the most mundane thing, yesterday or the day before, I think it was Monday, we went at Gong from just under 500 employees, and with our April hiring class, we're now just over 500 employees. So I went into our LinkedIn company page and just updated that field from the 200 to 500 bracket to the 500 to 1,000 bracket. And I was thinking, well, this would be a cool post to post on LinkedIn. So I created a quick animated GIF of myself changing that profile from 200 to 500 to 500 to 1,000. I posted that GIF. I think it got like 1,000 likes and dozens of comments of people congratulating us on the growth and stuff. And all I did was I wrote 3 words. I wrote that moment when, and I posted that little GIF. And I'm like, okay, 1,000 people enjoyed, at least 1,000 people enjoyed it enough to react. So many more thousands saw it and just kept scrolling. So you don't always have to, sit down and think, okay, I need 2 hours to write my next novel on LinkedIn. No, it can be something as mundane as this. I was just running a chore. I had to update our profile. I thought people would enjoy it. I posted it. You don't have to overthink it all the time.
I love that answer, Udi. It's such a good point. You don't have to sit down and plan on writing like 2 hours, right? Just what are you doing today? Share that with your network. It shouldn't be go ahead.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say before I pass on to Devin is, it consistently, I don't know why it still surprises me, but it consistently happens that the post that took me 30 seconds to pull off, like the one I just described on Monday, or I remember it was the last Halloween we celebrated in the office. I dressed up in a unicorn onesie, and I decided to just randomly post that on LinkedIn. And those are the posts that get the most interactions and likes, unlike the ones that we spend weeks fretting about and polishing and getting edited. And then, they do okay. But it's these ones that took us 30 seconds on a whim that they often get a lot more. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because I think it just shows something spontaneous that we did in our lives that people really respond to. Devin, have you experienced something similar?
Before you even finished, you said the 30-second post, I started nodding because I know exactly where you're heading, which is I've tried it before when I was a year ago or so. I'm like, I want to post more on LinkedIn. So I got my Saturday cup of coffee. This was before I had a kid. So I had my mornings to myself. And I would try to write 3 or 5 posts and get them perfectly polished. 1, I did not enjoy that process. And 2, just like you said, they weren't really getting the reaction or the engagement. And I mean that too, is like conversation started, right? It's not just about counting likes. It's like, is this resonating? Are people talking to me about it? And the amount of time I was investing, I didn't think I was getting anything back. So now what I do is random thoughts throughout the day. Maybe it's like 4 p.m. I have a thought, learn something. I'll jot it down in my Evernote. In the mornings around 8, 9, when my brain starts working in the morning, I look at my list and I just go, do I want to post that? I might add a few words and I just post it. And the things, just like Udi said, that you don't spend a ton of time on work the best because people want authentic, approachable content, right? Everyone wants to, for the most part, get to 500 employees and get to 1,000 employees. So what Udi posted was super relatable. And so I think, going back to my examples of the things that I share, it's hardly ever trying too hard. It's just like, oh yeah, that's that thing I learned. I'm a grammar guy. I went to school to be an English major, so I have to put over a little bit of copy editing. Like my brain won't let me not. But I just try to make it readable, legible, and helpful. And that's the stuff that really resonates.
I love that. It's about documenting your day to day, right? It's not about creating something like new out of the ether. It's just about documenting things that you're already doing. So now shifting gears just a little bit to think about how you've helped, both of you have contributed to creating this culture of content sharing on LinkedIn, because that's really, that's how you've referenced it, Devin. I've heard you talk about it in that way. And, that's really how I see it, right? It's not just that the two of you are posting. It's that there are people in every department of Gong that are sharing what their day looks like. And that creates this very powerful presence for Gong, even though, like I said, I would see Gong show up in my feed all the time. And I was always like, what's this Gong company? Like, I'm learning all these tidbits. I'm seeing like behind the curtain for all of these different departments. And then people become interested to learn more, right? So what are some of the things, and Jen has asked about an employee advocacy program specifically, but what are some of the things that you all are doing to help create that culture at Gong?
Again, happy to talk sort of high level about two flavors that has. One of them is getting people to post their own content, their own authentic content, and the other is when we ask them to share something that Devin's content department have put together, either on the Gong page or on Devin's page. And I'll start with the former. So I remember days in previous companies where there were all these debates about how marketing should control everything that goes out on social media, and marketing needs to approve every word that anyone in the company puts out on social media. I mean, I'm probably aging myself here, but if you're old enough, you remember those days when important people, so-called important people, sat in a boardroom and said, "Oh, we can't have just every employee posting on social media." I mean, that would be total chaos. Only marketing controls our message, and they need to approve everything before it goes out. And people got the message like, okay, you don't want us on social media, we'll just stay away. And I think times have changed, and at Gong, it's part of the bigger cultural shift where we're encouraging everyone to bring their full self to work. And that means that if Camille or Gabrielle want to write about what's on their mind related to the Black Lives Matter movement, we encourage that. We want them to write about that. And if it happens, sometimes it's related to their work and how we encourage them to bring their full selves and how we're supporting the causes that are important to them. And sometimes it's unrelated to work at all, and that's fine. And they'll still get engagement and applause from everyone at Gong, and our encouragement to do that. You'll find me often posting during Pride Month about the LGBT community, which I'm a member of, and things that are important to me. And I get a lot of support, not only from our circle of Gong proud LGBTs, but everyone. And we encourage people to bring themselves. And I think people sense that encouragement, whereas maybe at other companies, they're still getting more guardrails and control around our social media policy and what you can and cannot write. There has to be something, and I'm sure there's some paperwork even at Gong where we ask people not to write derogatory things about Gong on their social media, but that should be about the extent of it, right? So I think if you encourage people to do that, they will do that. And I'm trying to think back at my almost 5 years at Gong. I think there were probably twice where I slacked someone privately about something that I saw them post, that I had a suggestion on either why they should not have posted that or done something a little bit differently. They took my feedback to heart and either changed it or changed it for the next time, and that was it. But that's the level of my involvement in just encouraging people to bring themselves to work. And then very quickly on the second part of how we encourage people to share Gong content. So again, I think it's a matter of your approach. I think at some companies, marketing just blasts everyone with a lot of requests. Like, we just put out this amazing 42-page white paper. Your contacts are going to love this. You've got to share this out. And then people are like scratching their head. No, why would I post that? Like, nobody on my feed wants to read that. I don't want to read that. Why would I post that? So you've got to put out great content like Devin and his team put together. That makes it easier for people to get excited and post something they would actually want to read. So that's number one. Number two, and this might sound obvious, but it really makes a difference, you've got to explain to them what's in it for them. Just like when you're marketing to customers, you don't expect a customer to download anything if you don't make it clear what's in it for them. I don't expect our employees to post anything unless they understand what's in it for them. And when I do my monthly onboarding session about marketing for new employees, I always pause on this at the end of the presentation and said, hey, this amazing machine that brings all this beautiful inbound traction and pipeline into Gong. Well, here's how you can help us help you. When we ask you no more than once a week, so volume here is also important, no more than once a week, and usually less than that, we'll ask you to post something on your social feed. Here's why it matters, because the LinkedIn feed algorithm looks at how many people are sharing this, say, in the first hour or two. And if they see 100 Gongsters share something, they think that more people like you will want to read this, and then they make it more visible to your prospects. And then guess what? Marketing will bring those prospects back to you as opportunities for you to sell to. So we're asking you to put in 30 seconds of like, comment, and share something, and you will see more opportunities come back as a result. And then they go like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And then we get hundreds of Gongsters sharing our content because A, it's good, and B, they get what's in it for them.
So building on that, and this might be a more tactical question, Devin, that you want to jump in and answer, or Udi, of course, feel free to respond. You are actually asking people to share a company post. You're not saying, hey, here's the thing that we're trying to do and asking people to go post about it separately. You're actually asking people to share the company post, and they're doing it.
It's actually both, and it depends on what we're promoting. So an example of that would be, our Gong Labs blog. I write it. It comes from my page. So we ask people to go and like and comment, like Udi said, and ask them to share it. Now, a lot of times people, especially on the sales end, because it's for salespeople, might have lost our host. It's to, they'll add their own caption and share it out there. And so they kind of do it on their own. If we have other things like a funding announcement or a big, company event, we'll make a quick Google Doc with very clear step-by-step instructions. And again, just like Udi said, it prefaces, this thing is happening, and here's how you can contribute as an employee to make this a home run. And it's like step 1, download this image. Step 2, copy and paste this link. Step 3, here's 3 captions you can pick from, and you can customize them. And the third option always has like a fill in the blank, so people can fill in like what they're interested in or their favorite memory, whatever is related to the post. And so that's how we avoid, inauthentic posting, which like almost everyone, Udi, I'm pretty sure copies, paste, but changes it. Like I very rarely see like 3 people at Gong posting the exact same thing. And I'm sure everyone else has seen that on LinkedIn, like XYZ company clearly did something today because 18 people from their company have the exact same post with the exact same layout, and it comes across as inauthentic. So that's kind of the difference there. And then perfect timing. In 40 minutes, we have lunch and learn at Gong. And Udi does a phenomenal job prefacing when people start at Gong what we do and why. The fact that Udi's a CMO also shouldn't be understated. Like a senior executive at our company is telling people this is important. So they see, leading from the front. And then today I'm going to join with one of my content marketers on the entire US division at Lunch and Learn and share one, just thanking people for being involved and some of the results that we've seen. 2, reminding the new hires. I think we just hired 45 people yesterday, so they need to get reinforcement. And then Nehal is going to join and share this new feature on LinkedIn to make it even easier for people to share their own voice and to share Gong's voice. And we make sure to put it in that order because at the end of the day, I don't want this to feel like marketing constantly tapping them on the shoulder and asking them to do things. This should feel like we are genuinely interested in empowering you to put your own voice out there. And by the way, we have some content to help you do that.
Yeah, I think an important point Devin made is that, most people assume that to get that content out there by as many people as you want, you need to enforce more control. And Devin is actually saying, no, we take a step back and we don't give people the words that we want to put in their mouth, but we actually tell them, make this personal. And here's the main idea we're trying to get across. And sometimes templates can be helpful because not everyone is a Pulitzer-winning social media poster, and they, engineers or tech support people, they might want some help with how to get this message out there. So we'll provide them a template. Sometimes we provide 3 or 4 templates saying, like, here's one angle you can take, here's another angle you can take. And we don't want to put words in your mouth. So, if we're sharing about, a major milestone, we encourage everyone to write like when they joined Gong and what are they most excited about next. And we don't tell them what they should be excited about next. Like, make this personal. And then you get people really engaged and like, okay, this is something that I would genuinely want to share with my network and not something that Devin told me to write.
Yeah.
So what happens if there's an employee that is active and sharing on LinkedIn and obviously learning from you all and following in your footsteps, but maybe they're not sharing, and maybe you don't have this case, but they are sharing, but maybe they're not promoting the things that you're asking them to share. Like, is there a response to that? It sounds like this isn't very top down, but I know people worry about that, right? They're like, they feel pressured by their company to post or share something. How do you all like respond or deal with that? Or do you just not address it at all?
Honestly, we don't. And I hope nobody at Gong feels pressured to post stuff. I don't have a dashboard. I've heard about other companies where, of course, I won't name anyone. I've heard about other companies where like the CEO gets a weekly report of which the employees shared company content. And he calls in people to talk to them about not sharing enough company content. I would not want to be in such an environment. I think that's terrible. And that's not how social media works. Right? If a company owns certain properties, you have your website, you have your company profiles, you can use those to post whatever the heck you want. I don't own our employees' profiles. They take those with them when they move on. They brought them with their network at Gong. And if they're gracious enough to share something that they like, that the company they're currently at is doing with their network, then by all means, I'll encourage and make it easier for them. I do not want to enforce that. I'm not keeping a leaderboard for anyone. I would never talk to anyone that's not sharing or sharing other stuff. It's just not our approach.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. I think people see how active Gongsters are and they assume there's someone like monitoring and keeping people in line, which is completely untrue. One, I don't have the time nor the interest to do so. But I mean, it comes down to hiring. Like if you hire great people and you enable them, you shouldn't really have this problem. And the other aspect too, I kind of mentioned on that lunch and learn, is we have a CTA. If anyone wants to have a best practices meeting with me and Nehal, hit yes in the Zoom chat. We'll send you an invite. We've had 40, 50 people sign up for that thing. And instead of worrying about what people shouldn't be doing, if you just constantly encourage good behavior and enable them to do the right things, that's what people will gravitate towards. You know, when they see our CRO post an article we published and 100 likes and 25 VPs of sales, i.e. our ICP, our salespeople think, maybe this is a good idea because I would love those people to be talking to me on LinkedIn. And same with, like we said, support and all these kind of like, I don't want to say secondary, but like ancillary teams who don't necessarily use LinkedIn the way salespeople do. They still enjoy sharing their career milestones, what they're up to. And, some of the stuff we post isn't really about Gong. It's genuine thought leadership that's interesting. So they, like, if you get their buy-in, they'll kind of publish it on their own. They'll post on their own without even being asked.
If anything, I'll say that we have a bit of the opposite problem of some new hires coming to me either during their interview process or right after they're joined, and they come to ask for my help and advice. How can they build their own brand on LinkedIn? Because they've seen folks like Devin Reed, Sarah Brazier, Andre McBride, and other Gongsters from different departments building really strong personal brands and networks, and they want to be like that. Because they want to build a career in sales or SDR or marketing or anything else, and they realize that LinkedIn is where they need to be, and that having a great following and posting lots of great content is something that's going to help them get there. And they're actually coming to ask for advice. So I'd rather help this handful of people that want to do a lot than chase after a larger group of people that maybe are not meant to be big influencers on LinkedIn. That's fine.
Yes, I love that, Udi. We talk about that all the time. Let people opt in, right? If people opt in, they're going to be excited to do it. They're going to have the kind of like secret element that you need to be successful, which is just, that energy and excitement and that desire to actually be posting and sharing things. So I'm just going to do a quick recap of some of the things I've heard that Gong is doing that are working well. So I've heard that, like, let people opt in. That's a good one. I've heard that there are these ongoing educational pieces in addition to education at onboarding that help people understand, hey, this is how we talk about Gong on LinkedIn. This is what some of the leaders are doing. This is how, these are some of the best practices. And it sounds like, that exists not only at onboarding, but throughout the life of someone working at the company. It also sounds like, you didn't say this explicitly, but it sounds like both of you have, or maybe the whole company just has this kind of open door policy where people feel like they can approach you and say, hey, I want to do this, or like, can you help me? And then also providing, the more structured ongoing learning and opportunities. And then also, of course, you're providing some templates and some, like real resources and tools that are helping people get content out there. What am I missing? What else could someone be doing, that you've seen done at Gong or anywhere that would really help get their employee? Well, sorry, one last thing, leading from the front, right? If you don't see leadership out there doing it, it's going to be really hard to get buy-in from anybody else. What else could people be doing, or what else am I missing there?
I think one big one that I would add is that we sort of glanced over it and jumped straight to how do we get people to share content, but we didn't talk about what kind of content people actually want to read or feel comfortable sharing. And I think it's worth pausing on that for a minute. Gone are the days where you could just share webinar promos on LinkedIn and expect everyone to applaud. That's not a big deal. Nobody cares. And people come to LinkedIn not just to learn about your webinar. I would dare say nobody comes to LinkedIn to learn about your next webinar. They're coming. Why are people coming to LinkedIn? Beyond the business goals of looking for a job or looking for a deal, people are coming there to be educated, and they're coming there to be entertained. Yes, big executives of big companies come to LinkedIn to be entertained. They want to see something entertaining, and they're coming sometimes for a distraction. If I've got 5 minutes between back-to-back meetings, I go to LinkedIn to just unwind for a minute and like show me something fun that'll make my day a little bit brighter. And if you take that education part and the entertainment part, you put them together, you get something that I've heard been called edutainment, which I'm a big proponent of. And I think if you focus your content on that right mix of edutainment, that you're educating people and at the same time, or sometimes exclusively entertaining them, but you do that in the right mix, you're creating wonderful content. And not only will your audience enjoy it, but your employees will enjoy sharing it because, again, it's something that makes them look cool and up to date. And like nobody wants to be that poor employee that gets to share webinar invites twice a week. That's a very poor employee advocacy program.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, Udi. I was going to make sure we said edutainment at least twice, and I think I just hit our quota.
Yes.
And I wish somehow the entertainment part could actually come first. I was watching something last night, and it kind of sparked, and I was like, if you take away the entertainment aspect, it's just educational. And if you think about your college days, people skipped class a lot because it was very informative, but not always very entertaining. But people very rarely skip the entertaining stuff like sports, parties, socializing. And so I think it's important, like a lot of, kind of what Udi was saying is like companies view this as like, we need to control the message. It needs to be informative. We need to be authoritative. That is not what people come to LinkedIn for. No one's really coming for that first. They're coming to be entertained. They want to be educated. If you can do that, fantastic.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like, I think we think of it like this stuffy kind of like work-centric place, but then if you actually look at the content that you want to consume, that you're enjoying, never ever someone else's webinar. It's never ever, some dry thing about like, here's how you do this. It's always something that's making you smile, that's making you feel something, right? Whatever it is, feel inspired, feel, like hopeful, feel whatever, right? Awesome. Well, so I want to make sure, Udi, you said right before we got started, I would love for people to be able to come up on stage and ask questions. So I want to make sure that we save the last 15 minutes here and open it up to a couple questions. Audience. So all you have to do, if anyone, we've had lots of folks jump on stage already in the previous sessions, but all you have to do is click this mic in the bottom left-hand side of your screen to come up on stage. Jen, I know you have, you have a really specific objective or goal you're trying to achieve here. So if you want to come up on stage first, and then I'll let people up one at a time.
Yeah, we want to see our pajamas. Let's go.
If you don't ask questions, you just have to hear me and Udi's best dad jokes, and we have a lot of them. So, I will easily fit 15 minutes of content with dad jokes.
Don't let that happen.
I feel like that sounds awesome, though. Okay, Jen is getting ready for the stage, whatever that means. Oh, I don't know what I just did. Okay, maybe now. Okay, well, at least one dad joke. I feel like you guys just did this whole thing about how entertaining stuff sells, and then you're like, yeah, we can do dad jokes.
There she is.
I'm here. I'm outside. Sorry. So my question was around the employee advocacy program. I noticed when I was looking for some metrics to support the idea that our employees should be more social, that there were lots of different programs out there, and I was wondering whether you were using one of those platforms.
So I'll say we don't use any platform other than LinkedIn and our Slack. So we use Slack to share stuff. There's something out there called Shield that's caught my attention. It kind of captures individual analytics. I'm not sold on it yet, and we do have a rather mature program. So maybe we're just, I don't know if we're not there yet or past it. But we haven't had the need to do that. The way I would say, if you're trying, and Udi, I'd love this because you're the CMO who might say yes or no in Jen's scenario. So if you're struggling to show like why, my thought would be, our web traffic is up when our social media is up. Like the more content we post on there, the more Gongsters are posting. Because here's what people do. They read the content, they either click my profile or they go to Gong's profile. And a lot of times they go to the Gong website. And all marketers love more web traffic. So that's probably something fairly easy. And I think the other thing too is like a lot of times, senior leaders will say, it's for sales training. I don't know if anyone's heard this, but like, what happens if we train our employees and they leave? It's like, well, what happens if we don't and they stay? Right? And they think they're going to lose great people. What actually happens is no one snipes me away from Udi because I'm active on LinkedIn. Instead, great talent come to Gong inbound because they see us on LinkedIn. It looks like a great place to work. We're having fun. And so we get a lot more options when it comes to recruiting. Those are just the first two that come to my mind. Udi, how did I do? Would you approve my pitch? And are there anything else that I'm missing?
No, Devin is absolutely right with how you should be thinking about it. I would just add one point, which applies for any tech tool that you're considering adding to the stack. It is not going to solve any business problem that you may have. It might only make it worse. Like if I'll give another example, if you buy an email automation tool, but you're creating terrible, not you, Jen, but someone theoretical.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Emails, it'll just allow you to send more bad emails. Now, nobody wants that. So going back from the analogy to the employee advocacy program, if employees are not sharing anything on social, it's not because you don't have a platform in place. As Devin mentioned, we've never used a platform, and we're here to talk about how hundreds of Gongsters are sharing content. That's probably if I had to prioritize, that would be the problem I would want to solve for first. How do we create a culture where they feel free to share and they are encouraged to share? And how do we create the right content that they actually want to share? Once you solve that and you've got a nucleus of that going for you, then you can say, okay, maybe this or other platform can help me scale that. And that's when I would look at that. But I'm afraid that you might get consumed in the project of deploying a platform and still nobody's sharing and you're going, oh, the platform maybe doesn't work. No, the platform is fine. I don't know any of the platforms, so I have no opinion on them whatsoever.
No, I think the reason I posed the question was because you mentioned like the frameworks that you provide, a couple of different examples, and that's basically was the selling point of those various platforms. So how are you internally sharing like what you want posted and those various variables? Are you just sending an email?
We do this so low tech that I'm almost embarrassed, but here's what we do.
By the way, I'm frugal by choice. Like, I don't want any technology. I hate going to finance and getting approval for stuff, to be honest. So I'm like, go ahead, dude. I didn't mean to cut you off. Like, I try to keep it.
Okay. It's so low tech, it's embarrassing. So, like, Jonathan, who works on Devin's team, might put a calendar invite for everyone at 8 a.m., a 5-minute calendar invite. Please share today's Gong Lab post. And then within the calendar invite, he'll either put the text that we're suggesting that people post on their LinkedIn, or if he wants to provide other versions or an image, he'll post a link to a Google Doc where he posted those templates and images. It is that simple. That's it. That's all the huge technology that Gong has behind their social media strategy. We use Calendar and Google Docs. That's as far as I go.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And about Shield, I'm a big fan of Shield. I have it for me personally, so it allows me to see when, like, I recently broke 1 million views, right? And so that was pretty exciting. but you can see how your posts are trending and which posts do better so that you can sort of refine that. So if you were curious about Shield.
Yeah, we'll
I
take a
was
look.
here yesterday.
Thank you, Jen.
All right, well, thanks, guys.
Sure. See you, Jen.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, the CEO of Shield spoke yesterday, and I you mentioned like is Gong too mature, and if you were going to be on one side of the spectrum, it would definitely be on the end of being too mature. But I think it is a motivational or encouraging tool just to see your progress over time, month over month. So obviously LinkedIn will tell you when your views are up, right? But it doesn't necessarily tell you, hey, cumulatively across the entire past year, like this is the progress that you've made. But I actually think the most powerful thing about it are the tags that you can use to tag content. So what you could do is say, okay, anytime it's a Gong post, like we talk about Gong, we're going to tag it, and we're going to look at the engagement with Gong, like posts that mention Gong versus posts that don't, or posts that are on a particular topic, and kind of like compare and contrast across different tags, like what the results are. And you can have an entire like company dashboard. But then I do wonder if people at the company worry more about being judged for not being as active because it's something that's a little more visible to leadership then.
I think it's well timed. Like, I mean, clearly this concept of a LinkedIn, employee advocacy program is catching on. I'm one where I'm like, I love data only if it's going to help me solve a question that I have. So for me, I don't have those questions yet, but for sure, if you're getting things started at your company and maybe there's like 4 or 5 people in like your core group, it might make sense to do that as like an encouragement platform, share what's working, like by all means. And I think Nehal on my team might be talking to Shield in like the next week or quarter. So they're on our radar.
You're like, my post yesterday only got 3 likes, but if I look at it in the context of this year, I've still had this big impact.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions from the audience? Feel free to grab a mic. It's probably a pretty rare opportunity to be in a room with both Udi and Devin if you're not working at Gong. So I would definitely.
Gong's just getting too much, maybe.
They're like enough of these two. All right. So one last question from me then. What's your best dad joke?
You go first.
I'm just gonna check what have I been slacking Chris Orlob lately, and
yeah, Chris Orlob is an OG. He's got a bunch too. The one that always comes to mind first, and it is very cheesy, is what kind of cheese did a mouse make his house out of? Cottage cheese. Yeah.
I love it.
It's like hit the pause button because it's not really that funny, but you need some like encouragement. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Udi.
No, I'm trying to see. Here's one. What did
you?
Okay, here's a kind of silly one, but aren't they all? People are usually shocked when they find out I'm not a good electrician. Yeah, we can keep going.
I don't know if I get it, but okay.
They're shocked, like you shocked.
Oh, okay, got it.
How to fish get high? Seaweed.
Hey, these are all really good. I've never heard any.
We should quit while we're ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like Billy has a question. Hi, Billy. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having us on the microphone platform here. I just wanted to ask you guys, I'm kind of newer to the company. I work with a K-12 ed tech company. So we work with Google and provide a lot of Google Classroom and things. So we've got different branches, like we've got our professional development coaches who are in working with teachers, and they're pretty active on various social networks. And then we have a newer sales department. The company kind of restructured in the last 6 or 8 months, and there's a lot of new folks around. And so we're trying to establish our brand. But my question for you on the onboarding side, do you provide, like cover photos or profile pictures when folks start with the company, or is that something that kind of goes and comes along the way as things change?
Yeah, we do provide cover photos. I think it's part of the onboarding kit, and we do update them several times a year. So if you look at my cover photo or Devin's, they're Gong branded, and we occasionally change that. Like we have a dedicated one for Pride Month, and we have a dedicated one for other occasions. As far as profile pictures, so back when the office was open up till a year ago, once a quarter we did a photo shoot. One of our customer success managers, Sunny Huang, he's a great photographer, and we bought him a small set, and he brings in his camera, and we got the lighting and everything, and he just took photos of everyone who wanted a headshot, and they're really good. So if you see all these purple and pink gradient backgrounds behind all of our headshots, thank you, Sunny. He took all of them. I think since we've been working remotely, he's helped some folks just crop out their best headshot and put it on a standard background. So we did some of that as well. I do encourage that. It's not a must. It does add a more professional, clean look to everything when, you know, you're just scrolling through your feed and see, oh, there's another purple headshot. That must be a Gongster posting. It is nice. I will tell you there's a downside, because on Slack, when all those headshots are tiny, we all look exactly the same. So we cannot distinguish each other with the tiny headshots on Slack when we're all with the same lighting and the same background. But on LinkedIn, it does look great. So I wouldn't say it's a must, but it's definitely helpful. And if you can offer that once we go back to offices, or just maybe, I don't know, give people a small budget to go get a proper headshot with someone you work with, it does help create a more clean, professional look for everyone.
Of course.
Awesome. Thanks, Billy. All right, guys, what's your one for teams as our last question here? We'll make it the last question. What's the one thing that anyone could go do today to have a better presence, a more improved presence on LinkedIn?
Just go post something. Go post something. Like right now, you got 15 minutes because we finished early. You don't have a meeting until the hour. Go post something on LinkedIn right now. And feel free to tag me or Devin if you want for inspiration. You'll get your first like as well. We guarantee it. Just go post something. Don't overthink it. Stop thinking that you need to clear 3 hours to come up with words of wisdom. Just go post something. Take one thing that Devin said during this presentation that you liked as an insight, and post that as your takeaway. Wow, just got out of a great session at LinkedIn's Empower event and learned this from Devin Reed. There you go. If you tag Devin, you'll also get his followers to come like it. So it's that simple. Just go do it.
Or you could use that. Heck, you could snag that electrician joke there and go post that.
That will get more likes than anything I said.
The audience went wild. I'm looking at the chat, and we didn't get this engagement when we were talking about social media, but the dad jokes totally got engaged.
Perfect example. I was going to say the exact same thing. Go post something. If you're still shaky, start by commenting on other people's content. Start hitting send. Talk to other people. Maybe that'll, if you've never posted on LinkedIn or done it very rarely, talk to other people, get your confidence up, and then hopefully you'll make the leap into creating your own.
Should we end with another dad joke?
I mean, we have 4 more minutes, so sure.
I once asked a lumberjack how many trees he's cut down. He said 27,542. I said, wow, how do you know exactly how many trees you cut down? He said, easy, I keep a log.
That's a good one. What's a bug's favorite sport?
Ooh,
cricket.
Of course it is.
Sure. I have more insect jokes, but I don't bug you.
Don't do a single corny joke. So you guys are awesome.
Yeah, that's because moms are way smarter than dads. That's the only reason.
Yeah. 100%.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you on LinkedIn.
Thank you again, Z. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Go post on LinkedIn.